as soon as you hit the accelerator pedal, the whole car rolls to the back right corner. But on D-cell, because of regen, the opposite effect takes place, and you roll to the front left corner. So the first thing that jumped out at me when driving in this eAxle for the first time is that there's no more body roll from torque. So before we switched from a mid-motor Jeep, as soon as you hit the accelerator pedal, the whole Jeep would roll to the right, and of course, because it was accelerating, it would roll to the back as well. So it would just, if you accelerated hard, it would just roll really hard to the back right corner. This is pretty cool, like to impress friends every once in a while, but on a daily basis, it was pretty annoying. It kind of affected the drivability, especially around town of the Jeep. And the reason for this roll to the passenger side upon acceleration is what's known as torque roll, or it's from the drive shaft kind of torquing the whole car over to the side. So the drive shaft on this Jeep is spinning in such a way that it's sort of pushing the whole axle assembly down and into the ground on the driver's side. So from Newton's laws, we know that for every force there's an equal and opposite force. So because the drive shaft is essentially forcing the driver's side of the axle assembly into the ground, there's an opposite force forcing the Jeep or rolling the Jeep to the passenger side on acceleration. And so you'll see this in all types of cars, especially raised vehicles like raised Jeeps. It's very common on, and it just becomes kind of a fact of life for especially off-road Jeeps where they're very raised and there's kind of softer suspension, the weight's up a little higher, or maybe there's a lot of gear reduction, so there's a lot of torque, and that's going to augment this effect. But you also see it on high horsepower drag cars. When I used to work at Mazir Enterprises, we made some really, really big, like 2.5 inch or 3 inch diameter sway bars for really high horsepower drag cars. These were 3,000 horsepower drag cars. And if you watch these drag cars on the start line, the car is rolling to the back right, the same as this Jeep would upon acceleration. And just because there's so much torque going on to the axle through the drive shaft, and it's forcing the car to the back corner. So they're running super big sway bars on a lot of these cars to counteract that effect. We're talking hardened steel, 3 inch OD, and really thick wall. On the Jeep, it was actually a little bit even more entertaining because it's the first vehicle I drove where not only could you see this effect on acceleration, it was very pronounced. As soon as you hit the accelerator pedal, the whole car rolls to the back right corner. But on D-cell, because of regen, the opposite effect takes place, and you roll to the front left corner. So it really affected the drivability. It was kind of entertaining, kind of cool, and it was kind of a cool science lesson. But overall, with the eAxle, it's going to be a lot smoother, and it's just a lot more pleasant for driving around town. And really, you're going to see this effect in really any solid axle car except for eAxles, because the effect is coming from that drive shaft torque. Now, I've heard of some very fancy suspension geometries that might counteract this. I haven't really looked into them too much, but we're talking really fancy kind of 3-link, potentially 4-link type setups. But as far as I know, raised off-road vehicles, this is really common. But with eAxles, since all the power is originating in the eAxle, you don't have this effect. So it's really, really cool, especially for either high torque applications or applications where you're like towing uphill, or applications where you have a more like kind of raised vehicle like a Jeep with softer off-road suspension. So super excited for kind of that Easter egg, if you will. And that was really cool because it makes the Jeep just drive around a lot nicer, a lot smoother. And that's just one added bonus of the eAxle.